What's up, Fuse? How are you guys doing? Awesome, awesome. Man, it is so good seeing you guys tonight. I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank the staff for giving me this opportunity to speak with you guys. And gosh, it's just so good seeing you guys. I love being in this room. I really missed it over the past couple months. It's been tough, but what a crazy week it's been, right? We had Aloha Night last week. What'd you guys think of Aloha Night? Good time? I mean, Kona ice, like you can't beat free snow cones, right? It was kind of bittersweet though. We had to say goodbye to our seniors, but we did get to welcome in our brand new sixth graders. So where are my sixth graders at? I feel like that weren't sixth graders. Just that was way too mellow. So why don't we show them the proper Fuse welcome? Give them a round of applause. Welcome them into the Fuse family. Man, sixth graders, wherever you guys are, I'm really stoked that you're here. I really hope you guys enjoy Fuse this year and have a great time with this. But, you know, I think the big thing on everyone's mind has been school. Ooh. How's school been this week? Thumbs up, thumbs down. How's the first week back? I'm looking for one thumbs up. One, oh, there we go. I see a couple. Okay, that was way more than I expected. Good. Hey, you're not sick of Zoom calls yet or anything? In person? Okay. Well, I know it's been kind of a crazy season. You know, spring got canceled, summer got canceled. Now you're back in the fall, and there's all this buildup of like, are we going back in person? Are we going to do virtual? And you end up in this weird combo. Like, it's kind of weird, but I want to encourage you guys, like, it's going to get better. I promise you guys, it's going to get better than this eventually. It might be weird right now, but it will get better. But, you know, as I was preparing for tonight, I was thinking about that uncertainty and different moments in my life where I've kind of had to face nothing like this, but different moments where I felt uncertain, like about where to go, what maybe is next for me, how to get there. And I started thinking about these different people in my life that have challenged me. And I don't know if you guys can relate this, but how many of you have ever had a moment, maybe with a parent or a teacher or a coach or something, they asked you to do something, but gave you no instructions on how to do it? They're like, hey, maybe a parent's like, hey, I need you to take care of the house while I'm gone. Okay, what does that mean? Like, what do you want me to do? And it's just very vague. Or a coach is like, hey, I need you to run this drill. And you're like, cool, I can do that, coach. But what is that drill? What am I supposed to do? I don't know. And it brought me back to my freshman year in college. See, when I went to college, I wanted one of my degrees to be in a science. I wanted to study science, and I had to take chemistry. The problem was I skipped chemistry in high school. So I show up to this college-level chemistry class knowing nothing. Like, I've seen the periodic table before. I know what elements are. I think I could tell you what an electron was. But legitimately, I could barely spell chemistry when I walked in. And they start talking about calculating mole mass and all these different things. And I'm like, is that English? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, please help. I'm just 18. And I was so freaked out. And like, I tried so hard. Guys, it was not a problem of effort, I assure you. Like, I gave it everything I could to do well in this class. And your boy did not do well. He did not do a good job with chemistry, but I learned something from that. You know, sometimes we're going to go through life and we're going to have these moments where we might not have the details that we think we need to get through. You know, we're going to face situations where we might feel like we need more answers than we have. But the good thing is the Bible is really relevant to this. There's plenty of stories in the Bible where people had to face situations that they had no idea how they were going to get through. And so tonight we're going to go over a passage in Matthew chapter 14. And Matthew chapter 14 is an incredible chapter. I really encourage you guys to spend some time this week studying this chapter, because right before this passage, Jesus actually feeds the 5,000, and it's crazy, like feeding thousands of people with a couple loaves of bread and some fish. Like, it's nuts. But right after that, Jesus tells his disciples, okay, get in this boat. We're going to the other side of the lake, and I will meet you there. Okay, straightforward so far, right? But see, if I was a disciple, I probably would have started doing the math right there. Like, okay, we're going to cross some water. We're taking a boat, but Jesus isn't. So how are you going to get there? And so they set off anyways. They start sailing. And as soon as they start, guys, it's storming. Literally from the get-go, it's just torrential rain and bad seas, and they're miserable to the point where these guys think they're going to die. And keep in mind, some of these are sailors. Like, they've been on a boat before. Like, they know what they're doing, and yet still they think they're going to die. And just casually strolling up in the middle of this storm is Jesus. Out of nowhere, Jesus walks up, and he's like, "Hey, it's me. Don't be afraid." Like, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm good. Literally walking through a storm, Jesus comes up and he says, "Hey, don't be afraid, it's me." So we're going to pick it up in verse 28. We see how the disciples responded, and it says, "And Peter answered him, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' He said, 'Come.' And so Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus." That's it. It's just, oh yeah, Peter walked on the water and came to Jesus. Oh, okay, cool. That's simple. There's no details, there's no instructions, there's no manual on how this happened. It's just Jesus calls Peter out and he goes out. Plain and simple. Peter asks for the impossible in this moment, right? I mean, he's breaking every law of like buoyancy and physics and everything we understand about water, and just walks across it in the middle of a storm. 5 minutes ago, he thought he was going to die. Now he's walking across the water. And this passage, one of the things we can learn from it, and one of the things that I feel like I've learned in my life, is that sometimes God's not going to give us the details, but he will set the direction. He might not give us all the details about how it's going to work, but he will absolutely give you the direction on how to get there. And I was studying this passage, and it made me think of a YouTube video. I don't know why, but I was studying the Bible and looking at it, and it brought to mind a YouTube video, which I think is kind of weird, like studying the Bible and being like, oh yeah, that YouTube video that came up. But instead of just showing you guys, I figured that we might as well recreate it, because we're at Fuse, and we have fun here at Fuse. So I have a helper that's going to bring out some stuff for me. Nolan. Everyone say hi, Nolan. Look at Nolan go. He's so good. And while Nolan's doing that, I actually have a volunteer that's going to help me. So Denon, where are you at? There you are. Come on up. Everyone give a round of applause for Denon and Nolan, because great job. Great job on our leaders' parts. All right, Denon, step on up. Okay. Denon, I promise you this is going to be simple. I'm a little bit afraid, so it's going to be really easy. All you need to do, I'll be real. Preaching gets me a little hungry. So I would like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Can you make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? All right. You're a little unsure about this, so I'm a little worried now. But okay, so while Denon's going to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I actually got help from another fuser to try and do this myself last night. And we have a video of that we're going to watch while Denon makes his sandwich. Yeah. What are we doing today? Making PB&J. So tonight I'm going to be using a recipe given to me by the very own Berberick family that supposedly has been passed down from generation to generation. It's supposed to be the perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We'll see. Okay, so step one is get pieces of bread. Doesn't say how many. So I'm going to use all of them. Step two is spread peanut butter on one piece of bread. So got our peanut butter. This side. Okay, step three is spread jelly on the other piece of bread.
Okay, and the final step of the secret Berberic family recipe for the perfect PB&J is put the piece of bread together. It's kind of messy.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting that. PB&J. Hey, I love the Berberics. I trust them. Um, it's a little unorthodox, but I'd rate it a perfect 5 out of 7.
Go.
What are we doing today? Making PB&J.
And watching the video again. So, I didn't do a great job. Okay, hey, thank you for clapping. I'm not going to reveal which Berberic sister gave me those instructions because I don't want to embarrass them too much. But let's just say being a middle child is very hard. Well, clearly I didn't do a good job making that sandwich, right? But let's see how Denon did. Denon, show everyone your sandwich. I love how scared you are. Like, it's just a sandwich. Okay, Denon did a great job. That's exactly what you'd expect out of peanut butter and jelly, right? You can keep that one if you want. Okay, everyone say, give a round of applause for Denon for being a good sport. Nolan, can you come help me with this stuff? Nolan, can you come help me? Look at Nolan run. I love it. Thanks, Nolan. Great job, buddy. Since Denon didn't want it, you can have that sandwich if you want. He's not going to eat it. It's fine. So clearly, I did not achieve making a sandwich in that video, right? Like, that was not a good job. And I had all the details I needed. I had literally point-by-point instructions on how to make a sandwich. And yet I still couldn't do it. Denon was a sport. He was terrified, but he made a sandwich. All I had to say, hey, make me a sandwich, and he did it. That's it. He had a direction, and he followed through. See, sometimes those details that we feel like we need so bad really can get in the way of us actually moving forward. Those details can really get in the way of us, pursuing what God wants for us. And we see that in this passage too. Peter didn't need all the details. He didn't ask questions. He didn't ask like, hey, how am I going to walk across the water to you in the middle of a storm? He just does it. He gets out of the boat and he walks on the water. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, I probably could have done that. If I was Peter, Jesus tells me to get out of the water, I could probably do that. Some of you, though, you hear Jesus command him to do something, you're like, oh, you're going to tell me what to do? Nope. I'm out. I don't want to do it anymore. Not for me. No, thank you. Some of you, though, you're looking at the other disciples in the boat, and you're like, I think he's talking to you. I'm sorry. You can go. Scooting back, kind of being afraid, slinking into the shadows a little bit. Like, hey, I don't want to step out into the water. Some of you, though, very enthusiastic, maybe those sixth graders that are hiding in here somewhere, you hear Jesus tell you to do something crazy like that, and you're like, I'm in. And you're jumping over the rail, and you're running across the water as fast as you'll go, and just everything you have is going into this moment. Some of you, though, are logical like me and thinking, okay, God, I'll do this, but do I go one step at a time? Do I just hop in and just balance? Is there a special way that I need to walk across the water? How am I supposed to do this? I feel like I need an article or a Wikipedia page, even a BuzzFeed list. Just give me something to figure this out. But he doesn't give any of that. Peter doesn't ask for that. He just gets out of the boat. I know you guys have probably heard this passage before. I know I've preached this passage before. If you spend any time in church, I'm sure any pastor that you've ever seen in history, has probably preached this at some point. This is a great story. This is a well-known, famous story, one of the highlights of Peter's life. Can you imagine all those stories? All those sermons, all those moments of life change, of lessons learned, of God moving in people's lives from one moment. It's incredible, right? One moment with God changing the course of history. But what if Peter stayed in the boat? What if Peter decided, like the other 11 disciples, I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to play it safe. I kind of need a little more details before I'm going to commit to that. And he just hung back. I think about that storm, like, if Peter doesn't step out of the boat, this is just a storm. This is just another moment. This is just 12 guys in a boat almost drowning. It's barely anything that anyone would know. Like, we probably wouldn't even have this in the Bible. Now, what about our storm? What about what we're going through right now? What about all the different things that we're facing in this day, right now? How do we respond? What do we do? See, with Peter, his storm became a story. His storm wasn't just a moment of trial, it was a story. And we have the same opportunity. We have the same opportunity to face our storm and either slink back and let it just be another moment, or it can become part of something greater. It can become something so much greater than we can possibly imagine. But we got to step out of the boat. We got to get right up and make that decision. Would you do it? Would you step out? Or would you miss it? I don't know. It's tough. Maybe God's not calling you to walk on water right now. Maybe he's not calling you to the impossible. Maybe he's just calling you to trust him. Maybe he's just calling you to pray, read your Bible. Maybe he's calling you to be hope and love and peace to the people around you that need it so desperately right now. Somebody around you needs the hope and the joy that you have. Maybe that's what he's calling you to. Maybe that's the story that he wants to write with you right now. Are you going to miss it? Are you going to miss out on what God might want to do with you right now? I think it's really easy to think about all the things that are going wrong right now. We didn't have camp. We're not really in in-person classes for most of us right now. We have to wear masks everywhere. But what is God doing? What could he do right now with the stories that we're a part of? What lives could he change if we step out? See, the disciples learned from this. One of the powerful things about this passage is that when Jesus invites Peter out, he's not speaking to just Peter. When he actually says, "Come," that's an invitation to all 12 of the disciples. And 11 guys missed out. And that stuck with them. And we go down the timeline a bit and we get to Acts chapter 1. See, Acts chapter 1 is in the midst of all these crazy other stories. Jesus gets murdered, he gets resurrected, and he lives with the disciples for a while. He spends time with them, he eats with them, he shows off his crazy wounds. And then it gets to this part where he goes up to them and he says, "It's time for me to go. I have to go home, and I need you to wait. I need you to wait. I don't need you to go do miracles. I don't need you to go heal people. He asks them to wait, just to stay put. He says, something big is coming, but right now I need you to wait. And boy, did they wait. They waited week after week after week after week. 7 weeks they wait. Nothing. No word from God, no sign. It's really easy to ask in that moment, like, okay, what do we do now? Did we mishear him? Are we doing something wrong? Like, should we go heal people? Should we go talk to somebody? Like, someone's got to know the answer to this, right? Like, we can't just wait. But they wait. They stay put. And we see in Acts chapter 1, verse 14, how they got through that. It says, all these with one accord were devoting themselves to prayer, together with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. Can you imagine just waiting? Waiting for an answer, waiting for a sign, some kind of direction? Like, I'm sure none of us have ever just waited and not known what we're going to do next, right? That's exactly what they do. They waited for 7 weeks. And I know that's not almost 6 months like what we're going through, but remember, they didn't really even have the Bible like we do. They just had each other. How do they get through this? They clung to their community. They stuck together. It says all of these with one accord. They were all together. They lived life together. They prayed together. They didn't abandon each other. They stuck it out. They were there for each other. They kept each other accountable. When some of them were weak, they helped them. They encouraged them. They made sure that nobody was left behind. And they got through it. The second storm that they go through, they all got to see what was on the other side. See, because that persistence, this persistence to wait, even when it doesn't make sense, paid off. And just a little bit further in Acts, they end up seeing thousands of people get saved in a single day. Can you imagine? It's like camp, but like on steroids. Thousands of people getting saved. All because they waited. I think about both these passages, and each one in its own way is a storm. Each one in its own way is this moment of trial and challenge that they faced. Two completely different results. And I think about our storm. We all have a storm that we're going through right now. I know things might seem a little bit better because we're infused, but let's be real. Like, we're all going through something. We're in the midst of something that generations haven't seen before. Literally nothing compares to this moment for over 100 years. I know that's kind of scary because there's no playbook. There's no instructions on what to do through this. There's no guide. There's no Wikipedia page. There's no article on how to do this. It's just figuring it out. How do we get through this? How do we get through this storm? We do it together. We got to do this together. If we as Fuse cannot get through this together, what are we here for? And see, I know that for me, when I look at this storm, I don't want it just to be a storm. I want it to be part of my story. I want this to be part of something so much greater that I can look back on years from now and tell my kids and my grandkids of how I got through 2020 and the lives that I got to see impacted and the stories of what God did in the midst of one of the worst seasons in human history. That's what I want. And I know the leaders here and I know the staff here at church, that's what they want. They want to see what God can do in the midst of tragedy. And we want you to come with us. We want you guys to be part of what God is doing in Fuse this year. Are you going to miss it? Are you going to miss out on this? Or are you going to step out of the boat? Fuse, I think it's time for us to step out. I think we can do this. I think we, as a family, face problems like this, and we run to them. I'm going to invite the band back out, and we're going to worship some more, but I want you to take heart in this moment. I want you to be encouraged by this, that even in the midst of the strongest storms, even in the midst of the craziest seasons of life, God is at work. God is at work in this room right now. Don't miss it. Heavenly Father, thank you for this night. Thank you for these students, God. Thank you for what you're doing here. Lord, I pray that even in the midst of Corona, even in the midst of school coming back, even in the midst of the craziest season that these kids will ever face, God, that you are working in every single one of their lives, that you care about them, that you love them, that you're fighting for them, but you're calling them out of the boat. Lord, I pray that you would be working in their hearts right now and encouraging them that even in the midst of all of this, there's something great waiting for us on the other side.